Hello, everyone. I'm Kerry George with CIBN TV on YouTube. And of course, you can find us at thecibn.com on our website. And I'm really excited today. I'm going to be talking about the Global Evolution of Business Summit. And I have a fabulous guest with me here today that I just cannot wait to introduce to everyone. Mark Layder has been doing business for many, many years. He actually has people like Og Mandino quoting about him, saying that his work is a precious roadmap to a better business and life, and a map that will guide you to success and happiness and wealth that you never dreamed possible. I think it's amazing that you have a quote by Og Mandino talking about you. That is just brilliant.
Well,
You
so
know,
do I.
how exciting is that? Og Mandino he wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World, and he's one of my personal favorites. I'm a huge fan. He passed away a few years ago, and I never got the opportunity to meet him. So that's fabulous. I'm so glad to meet you, Mark. And I know that you have some tremendous things that you're doing in the business realm, and I would like you to, tell everybody about that. What kind of opportunities do you have, and who do you serve?
Well, we serve that very important person that called the business owner effectively, and they have different titles, but that's what they do. They either own or they run businesses for other people, and that we started to see that kind of everybody's bombarding business owners, but nobody's really asking them how they feel and how they're getting on, and really looking at it from their point of view. And as a consultant, long-term background, I'm used to going and saying, well, how are you getting on, and asking a question and creating a dialogue. So that's how our process works. It's like a little free 3-minute kind of questionnaire that they can score, 1 to 5 as to priorities in 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute checklist, and it gives us a sense of their priorities, and that lets us go back to them with ways that they can improve their situation. So we're not selling anything to them. We're trying to find out where they're at and what their problems are, and then connect them with the right people. And that's where the whole business connector piece comes in. In manufacturing years ago, it used to be called just in time, where you just in time got the right resources on the manufacturing production line. Well, now it's the just in time, get the right resources to business owners when we need them. So that's how we serve business owners. And we also then train the professional business connectors to play that role, because a lot of business owners are working out the, wow, I could get access to someone like that to leverage my business. I might just be interested. So there's kind of the two sides of it. We want to obviously support that need through ultimately the business owners to make their lives easier and more productive.
So I just want to drill down into that a little bit further, because you are training business connectors, meaning you're training people who will go out and do your networking for you. Am I right on that?
Well, in language that we understand, Kerry, and I think most people on the call and at the conference would understand, yeah, that's exactly it. That, that the power of organizations like yours is you're facilitating what is without question, networking is the word, the concept that has most changed business in both our countries in the last 25 years, the last generation. But within that process, there's quite a lot of business owners and other people that aren't naturally, predisposed to doing what we call networking. So to support the range of people, and remember, a lot of business owners aren't from sales or marketing backgrounds. So if, as well as whatever role they want to play, if it can also be done for them in what we call connecting, just to give it a different position, that it can be attached to businesses in different ways, and they can work for local communities, then it just gives a position where business owners can spend or invest even more of their time on the bits of their business that they love, and make sure that the networking of the business bits that they may do, and particularly through a new professional called a business connector by profession title, then it just means everybody can kind of invest more time in the parts of business that they love. I'm a romantic, so why not make it easier?
You know what? It's amazing, and it's a huge, awesome opportunity. I mean, I think of a study I read about that Forbes had done with 7,000 business owners across the United States. and they found that 80% of them do zero networking. And we have found that, of course, over the years, 80% of all businesses go out of business, which is,
right.
There's a correlation between these numbers. But, and you've got some business owners, I mean, they've built something and they don't have time, and maybe, like you said, maybe they don't fit in the networking world. They feel uncomfortable in front of people, and they have the money to pay someone to actually do it for them.
Right.
I mean, what a brilliant idea. I've met a few networking concierge type of services where people were doing these, special connections, but that just takes it so much deeper and makes it so much more special. I love it. How did you find out, how did you start this thing? How did you get doing this?
Without ever knowing it, Kerry, when we worked with our first generation of coaches back in the day, as it were, in the early 90s, we discovered then that there was something going on, which is coaches, when we were working with them, they didn't want to sell coaching. They just wanted to be coaches. So we realized that if we could help them, and certainly it was my role to help them build their businesses, then that we could really develop their practices. So that's where it started. And here we are 30 years later in a world of, masses of business owners that aren't from a sales and marketing background. And we were just getting more and more messages that said, well, let's create this new profession that would help the business owners. So it started without, as I say, ever being a grand plan in the early 90s. And it's led to this new profession in the last couple of years.
That is tremendous. And I just can't wait to hear your talk at the Global Evolution of Business Summit, because that is going to be fabulous to hear more about how you do this. And is it affordable for the average person to participate in this?
Well, the beauty, hopefully, is that from the business owner point of view, it costs them nothing. We didn't want to make this into give us your $500 to join the club or any of that barrier to entry. So if a local business owner meets a biz connector, they can start that process with the little 3-minute checklist for free, because the idea is, well, as much as anything else, is to find out their priorities, but it's also about getting resources to them that may not cost anybody anything. So if we've got, you mentioned, one of the grant systems in the UK that famously, we found this research and development grant for a scrap metal dealer of all things. People don't associate R&D with scrap metal. It was $150,000 this guy got back. Now that's an extreme case, but if we can do things like that business owners start to say, why didn't I know about this? Or, because you're too busy. You're cutting hair, you're working on cars, you're designing software. So if the Biz Connector can be that, what we call the bookies runner, that person that can find things for people, the business owners can keep doing more of what they're doing. And if we can get them things like that it doesn't cost them anything on the front end, and then they start to get comfortable with, well, why wouldn't they look to do other things to scale up their business? So it starts for free. It's a way of, it's like the dating game. We all meet and say, hi, how we doing? And we don't necessarily get married the next day. Hopefully we have a cup of coffee. We don't see each other for a while, and time goes by and it develops a great relationship. It's built on that principle. It's like a local way, and it can be face-to-face. Remember, it's great that we can do it online, but we can also do it face-to-face. It started from that place of literally being, the days of actual handshakes to create relationships in the local area, and then network from that specialist to make the job of networking easier for everybody.
That's amazing. Thrilling, really. I'm just excited for business owners to be able to have access to that kind of a service. I think it's a game changer. Absolutely amazing. I know in our networking organization, CIBN Connect, we went 9 years without having a single business having business failure. So this is, and hundreds of members, and in a city that was in a dive economically, because it's an oil and gas city when oil and gas was tanking. Right. So we had that, happening, and we knew that networking was the answer. So for a business owner to be able to get somebody to do that for them, it's just amazing. I'm thrilled. Anyways, let's ask you a little bit more about, your passion. Where does your passion come from? Like, what's your why? Why did you start this?
There's an old line. It's not my line, but I sort of quote it. But I think it actually was, life was never meant to be a struggle, but I sort of adapted to business was never meant to be a struggle. And in business, never meant to be a struggle. It's kind of this whole area about, because I was from originally, I grew up as a boy in a grocery shop. So I was always in a business family. And then because I'm a kind of a buyer of things through the shop, and then got into selling, after I'd finished university and the likes. And then we discovered coaching. Well, because I was from that salesy business development background, but also looked at things from the human level of coaching, I just started to realize, and you mentioned some of the stats a few minutes ago, that an awful lot of people in business are struggling every day. And it's because there's kind of a hard fault, a wired problem into businesses that just aren't working for most people, as referenced by the nigh on 80% failure rate in 5 years in both our countries. So my passion is, if we could cut that figure in half, I'd like to make it 100% success rate. But if we could make an impact on that, then not only will we be helping the business owners, we'll be helping all of the other stakeholders in that business. And if you can do that to 10, 20, 50 businesses in an area, you can completely transform a local economy. And that's I'm not great at the detail of a business, the day-to-day stuff. I like we can make this work and get the knock-on effect working for everybody else. So that's what I'm driven by. I'm ultimately in the distribution game.
That's wonderful. I love the transforming, the local community. I think that is an awesome, objective to be having as we support small businesses every day. That's fabulous. All right. So, you know what, when you were starting out, let's say way, way back when we, just got off the ark after, we're like 20 years old.
Yeah.
I also just got off the ark way back then.
Look at your nice full hair color. Look at me.
I shaved this morning and looking pretty clean and dapper. So when we got off way back then, 20 years old, what kind of advice would you give yourself if you were talking to young Mark Layder, just starting out? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
Young Mark Layder. I think it's always, for me, been about look to play bigger. And I left big companies like American Express that were great international companies, but I kind of wanted to express myself more. So I went and worked with this wacky new American concept that had been brought over, obviously, from the States to the UK, with this little consultancy company. But it's that make a dent bit. So for me, it is kind of, we call them passionistas. People have got like a real passion. And if you can build a business around that, it's follow that and then find out ways where you can really turn your passion or your love into something that you do every day. Then it's not like work. I can disappear for hours and days doing this because I don't have to go to work. I work at 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes, particularly with US times and lag time. I'm used to work in California time. So it doesn't bother me that it's not about energy, that on that level, you've just got energy because you're doing something that you love, and you literally look up and go, my word, it's 11 o'clock at night. So it's about, I think, really, really trust your instincts of what you're fascinated by. And if you can engage in that for your kind of income generator and make that into a passion, then I'm pretty sure that you become an unstoppable force.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you would. I usually ask people, why to tell us about why they believe in networking, but I think you've already covered so much about why you believe in networking. I mean, and you are a professional networker trainer, really. You're like, when you're training these business connectors, I mean, you're training them to go out and network on behalf of a client, to do stuff for the client in a way that has never been thought of or conceived of for the client. So as you're training these people to do networking, like, what would be one of your best tips? What's something that you would train these business connectors, to do that you think that networkers should be doing?
Well, I think for me, It started from people in the local areas and particularly guys of a certain age who they didn't necessarily want to work full time, but they really wanted to give something back to the local economy. And also, as men in particular, because it was slightly different for the women that were involved at that time, they said to us they didn't just want to work from a computer all day. They did want to go out and kind of press the flesh. They did want to go to the golf club with their little black book, as we would call it, and sort of network and, almost have business with pleasure on that basis. So even when we're looking for people to get involved with us, we don't want them to come on board if it's something that they struggle to do or don't really want to do. So we've set the whole program up where unless they can thrive on the basic principles of, if I had a separate camera, I'd take you downstairs. We've got this individually made mat, effectively carpet type thing, because we were looking for this particular job to be done and we couldn't find all these rug things, and there were $200 for this, and my wife happened to find this local company that makes these bespoke floor coverings. So in we trot, and we got these bespoke, beautiful made things for like $90, $80 type money. And they'll last forever. They're beautiful. And I, of course, me being me, when I'm talking to the lady, and she was something like the sales director that ran the place, and I just told her about people could make a living just out of recommending that one service, and that's a place 2 miles from where I'm sitting now. That's what we teach them, that once you wake up to this a way of viewing the world, opportunities are everywhere. It's just then that it needed systemizing to make sure everybody gets paid who's meant to be paid, because there's people who forget that where you were introduced by, and it just needed, it's the old line about, if you go back long enough, blacksmiths used to take out your teeth. And apparently they did a good job, but it wasn't the most pleasant of experiences. And it wasn't until dentistry became a new profession. So we've just started to really look at these things as things that we do every day and get those practices shared in the local and then the global economy as well. Why not? Why not think big? Because it's all there, but nobody's really talking to each other and sharing deals. So we teach them to do that. And if they're the type that if you watch a new movie, you can't help yourself but tell 10 people about it, or a new restaurant, that kind of person, they really love being a biz connector because they can't help but share good news. So that's what we teach. We've turned that into, literally you can start today and you learn as you go. Anybody that's got that drive and that fascination to pass on good information can make a great living out of this and help lots of business owners and therefore the local economy.
I love it. It's keeping everything very simple. Your story of the place that was just a little ways away from you, it reminds me actually of Og Mandino's story, The Greatest Salesman in the World, where the experienced salesperson gives the young guy, one garment and says, go into this city and sell it. And it's just an interesting interaction. He's trying to make connections, trying to do things. And he doesn't know what he's doing. But through the guidance of that wiser mentor, in time he became the greatest salesman in the world. And just like you're saying, you're walking these people through these step-by-step things and just showing them how to be real people and keep their eyes open, and what a big difference that can make.
Absolutely. For everybody involved.
It's thrilling. So I know you work with a lot of business owners, and you must have a lot of tips that you give business owners over the years. So what are 3 tips that you could give a business owner?
3 tips, Line. The 3 tips, and I would only ever think of 2, but it's funny in this kind of conversation, Kerry, the one that more than ever now, and it's a bit like what would I say to the young Mark Layder, the big lesson we've got to learn now is to change the way we design businesses. And the key word is design, because we've got to design businesses around the skills of the founders. There might be more than one, remember, because if we don't do that, again, in both our countries, 3 years later, the business dream has become the business nightmare. And they're now spending all their time on things like dealing with the tax office and all these things of business that they're not doing the things that they love about the business dream. So that's the number one thing now, is to really invest in designing the business around what you set out to do. And then the other things that need doing, pretty much everything can be outsourced or JV'd into that business. So that's number one. If they've got number one, it expresses itself as number two. I'm still thinking of what number three, but I'll get there in a minute. So number two is, I think I've got it. I think I've got number three. Number two is what we call BizMap, and that's the design. And it's in the book about, when have we ever seen people turn up on one side of a river one day and go, hey, let's build a bridge? There will be plans, there will be all kinds of things to either side before they ever break ground. We don't do that in business. So the second one is to really get a simple plan that works, that people know what's going to happen next. They know what the process is, because most business owners aren't running the business is running them ragged, which means, therefore, number three, IPAs, income producing activities. Even if you're not from a sales and marketing background, you can design your business from the income producing activities. Biz connectors can help get them done. They haven't got to worry about that bit. But if they design their business to focus on income producing activities, they can always create top line. If you can always create top line in a business, you never have to worry about the bottom line. So there you go. There's me three for today.
Well, you know what? I'm glad I pressed you for the third one, because I love number three. Number three is one of my personal favorites. Income producing activities is something that every business needs to know. What is making the money, honey?
Yeah.
Because if you do, and it's also, sometimes it's as simple as, if you want to double the amount of money you make, figure out what's making the money and double your activity there. And you can literally double the amount of money you're making in 30 days just by focusing effort on the income producing activity. So I love that one. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I know exactly the guy who told me IPAs, income producing activities, years ago. I've known him for donkey's years, and I've always passed it on, and I always acknowledge him. Don Graham, very clever little dude.
Awesome. That is awesome. And I think it's important in every business. It doesn't matter if you are in network marketing, or if you have a storefront, or if you have three businesses, like three storefronts, set up, franchise. It's all the same. You got to figure out what exactly is it that makes the money and double up on that. And it will double up on your revenue just instantly. It's amazing.
Not a bad formula.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're going to be talking at the Global Evolution of Business Summit, and we are really looking forward to that. We got a lot of fabulous speakers that are going to be joining us, guys like David T. Fagan, Stu McLaren, Tom Matson, just a few that I'm just thinking of, Dr. Richard Kay from CEO Space, lots of amazing people. Leaders from networking organizations. We have 7 networking organizations all coming together. This is going to be a massive networking and knowledge type event. It's going to be fabulous. It is April 19th to the 22nd. So I don't know what people are doing on the 19th to the 22nd, but cancel your plans and come to this, because it's going to be better than whatever you're doing. I believe. So Mark, you are going to be one of the keynote speakers there. What are you going to be talking about at the Global Evolution of Business Summit?
Well, we're going to be, I like to sort of be a bit of a disruptor on the principle of, in a nice way, because it's getting people to just think a little bit differently. So the whole Biz Connector thing isn't necessarily for every business to end up working with a business connector. They can, but it's really about opening people's minds to that whole new way of designing businesses. And that's what we'll start to look at, because we have been sold a bill of goods that it means it's not working for most people. And, a guy I know in Scotland who's on all these entrepreneurial boards told me that the current rate in Scotland, and it's just one small part, it's like a state in the US terms, isn't it? 5 million people. They haven't got not one millennial formed business, so by that group of age groups, the millennials, that is over 5 years old. Not one. And when I asked him why, he said, well, Mark, it's because they think if they've got the tools, the business runs themselves. And they've kind of bypassed the old Zig Ziglar. Why was he told to polish the last tin of peas years ago in his old homespun stories? And the owner of the shop said, because Zig, I won't try and do an American accent when I'm talking to Americans, but, well, Zig, it's because that's the one that pays your wages. And it's that homespun human stuff alongside the tools, because it's unless we start to look at the way we design our businesses towards those IPAs, then the whole biz connector conversation means that we start to look at the way I run my business. I'm now in control, and the business doesn't need to be a struggle. And so we'll take people through a very, hopefully, with a little bit of English Monty Python humor, levity in it, just to lighten it up, because it's saying that if they're struggling, there's something wrong, and they can end the struggle with a few small, quick, cheap, we don't do cheap, but free even moves to completely turn their business back into the business dream, not the business nightmare.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to live the business dream, but nobody wants to live the nightmare, and too many are in the nightmare.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't wait to hear what you're going to be talking about at the Global Evolution of Business Summit. It's going to be awesome. That is fabulous. I want to also know, you got a VIP gift that you're bringing.
Yeah.
So we have, everybody can come to the summit for free. The summit from the 19th to 22nd, you just sign up and come. And like I said, try to come to all of it, as much of it as you can. We got some incredible speakers, fabulous networking. Do you know that I went to a networking event not very long ago, and I was there for one day, and I made 28 appointments, and I made 6 sales right after the event. And just right in the next day, I made, I think it was 3 of them, just like that, because I booked the appointments. And at this event, we're going to be getting people to make a meeting from the meeting at every meeting. It's going to be like that all the way through the whole event. Your calendar is going to be full up with high, good quality prospects that you're going to be talking to because you came to this, right? That's how important it is. But let's say you can't come to one of those important speeches. You want to take the VIP upgrade, because then you get it. You get the speaking, right? But you also get the chats where people put out all their contact information if you take the VIP upgrade. And you also get the goodies. There's goodies. There's goodies from each of the speakers. So each of the speakers is bringing something really cool. Tom Matson's gift is like massive. It's a course. It's like $1,900. Some of them are $300 or $100. Some of them are $500. It's like $8,000 worth of stuff already. Mark, what are you bringing? What are you bringing to the pile here? What is it that they can have access to just for taking the $97 upgrade?
Well, the first bit's the easy bit, because I thought the nice little copy of that's an easy bit. It's just because that we underestimate books. I know they take longer to read, but at least everything we're going to talk about is in there for people that want to do that deep dive, and that's just a nice cheap thing to give away. But the reason for doing that is the piece that's competes with Tom Madsen's, what he's given away and all that good stuff, is what we call the BizMap process. And that's quite a deep dive into people's businesses, because it's linked to those 3 things that you asked me about before, which is the design and really getting those income producing activities lined up. So that program, that in English pounds, don't is £1,000 or more type, so $1,400 at current rate. So I'm up there somewhere in the list of the goodies adding up. But seriously, it's people never get the time to really look at their own business and go through it with somebody that uses our kind of systems to come back with that blueprint to build their business bridge, to really robustly go forward. And whilst the person hasn't changed in that process, their confidence level can go through the roof, because they've got a direction, they've got a plan. So we thought, in the context of the global evolution of business, the one thing, if you made me choose the design of a business around the founder's work style, as we call it, their kind of work style personality, because that can be a bit different to their home personality, but their work style. That if we can help them get that bit clear, then some of the other tools that the other great speakers are making available would work even better. So we thought we'd go for that foundation piece to make sure everything was anchored on something strong. So that's the BizMap process.
That's fabulous. I'm going to have to up that now and say it's now $9,000 worth, because
There
I can
you
tell you
go,
right now,
exactly. We're over 9,000.
22 speakers here. And I got to say that my gift is a social media boot camp that is $900 plus $2,000 worth of content that you create through a 7-day challenge. So, I mean, there's that. Okay. And then there's Tom's is $1,900 and yours is $1,400. You know what? We're over $3,500, just the three of us.
We're kind of getting there.
There's like 19 other speakers.
Absolutely.
So I think we're over 9,000 at least. I'll have to get up and start doing the math. That's amazing. So this is going to be a fabulous conference, Global Evolution of Business Summit, coming up April 19th to the 22nd. Are you excited, Mark?
Well, look, I always do the line about you've got to let us Brits get our excitement in our own way. If you've seen us as football matches, soccer matches, we build slowly. So we don't do that excitement for the sake of it. But joking aside, the exciting thing for me in that is when you've got a title like the Global Evolution of Business. Business is evolving whether we like it or not. So for the people that are smart enough to be there, they recognize that and they're putting themselves in an environment that can really help them get the next set of smart moves. So for that reason, and when you ask me about my passion, that is my passion actually in the doing. So yeah, I guess I'm excited about that.
Well, I'm excited that you're excited, and we're all excited that this is going down.
So
I
excited.
didn't even tell anyone this yet, but David Ricklin said yes yesterday as well. So, I mean, we're just stacking them in there. These are heavy hitter, high producer.
I know Mr. Ricklin well.
Amazing, amazing people. And we're all coming together to give people, what has been going down in the last 2 years, what is going to be changing in the next few years. How do you move your business forward in the middle of this? What are your key strategies? I'm going to say, I'm going to be bold and say, this is it. This summit is it. It has the stuff that you're looking for. No matter where you are in business, you're going to want to be here because the answers are here at this summit. We're bringing them all together. It's amazing. So thank you, Mark, for joining me today. And I can't wait to get started coming up soon, April 19th and 22nd at the Global Evolution of Business Summit. Woohoo! All right. Happy capitalism, everyone. It's going to be a great week.
Thank you. I look forward to meeting everybody soon.